I'm Kirby Allison, and I consider myself immensely privileged to have traveled extensively while exploring the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. From the preeminent tailoring houses of London's Savile Row and the majestic beauty of the Scottish countryside on a traditional driven game shoot, all the way to the rich tobacco fields and cigar factories of Cuba's finest cigar producers. Today, this journey of discovery continues as I set out on a 2-week grand tour to explore the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition here in Italy. Italy is, of course, a country steeped in history, from the Roman Empire of ancient times through the Renaissance of the 15th and 16th centuries to the modern state that it is today. Its magnificent cities always manage to combine a deep respect for the past with a keen outlook towards the future. But more than anything else, Italy is about the Italian people, always stylish and well-dressed, friendly and forthcoming. On this trip, we shall be meeting up with a wonderful array of celebrated Italian artisans and craftspeople. From bespoke tailors and shoemakers to a single vineyard winemaker, and even bespoke pen makers. This is truly an experience not to be missed, so I hope you'll join me, Kirby Allison, as we set out for what promises to be a truly extraordinary journey exploring the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition of this great country. Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, and today you join me in Florence, Italy, at the flagship boutique of Stefano Bemer. Of course, I'm here today with Tommaso Melani, CEO of Stefano Bemer. Here at their beautiful store, we've had an incredible few days. I mean, you are a tour guide par excellence here in Florence. You've taken great care of me. We've seen some amazing places. And more than anything, I think seeing how quality craftsmanship and tradition are really flourishing here in Florence. So thank you for all of that.
No, my pleasure. Actually, it was a treat for me as well to just refresh my perception of craftsmanship and quality, seeing it through your eyes and not just what I'm used to.
Well, I have to say, as an American, traveling through, Europe, through London, I'm always struck by just how deeply rooted those virtues of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition are. But I wanted to just slow down for a moment and talk a little bit about this spectrum that exists between made to measure, ready to wear, and bespoke. It's this gray space. And of course, Stefano Bemer, 10 years ago, you really turned that paradigm upside down with at that time, which was a pretty revolutionary approach towards ready to wear and made to measure. So I was hoping today, since here we are in, kind of the historical, premises of Stefano Bemer, we have, of course, the great company of you here that you might share with us a little bit, kind of that background story, how that happened, and a little bit about your philosophy that allowed that to even occur.
Very well. So yes, I mean, as you mentioned, like we did change the paradigm a bit. We brought the collections and the making closer to enhance one experience rather than keep them separate as they were traditionally. And I think we opened up a market. Nowadays, many shoemakers or tailors are indeed converging on the same route, and I'm glad that we opened the road for them.
Yeah.
In order to explain why I did it, I need to go back a few decades. First of all, to Scuola del Cuoio again. What you've seen today was my playground as a kid. So for me, craftsmanship and custom and quality were normal. That is my world as I grew up. I was playing with gold to monogram stuff when I was 3 years old. So for me, that kind of custom experience is what is normal to people.
Yeah.
And I then, later on, I understood that it's not normally available to people. And I figured out why not, right? So that was my first beginning of understanding what's the demand out there and for what. When I then met Stefano Bemer, that at the time, I first met him in 2008 at a charity auction. We were donating with the Scuola del Cuoio handbags, and he was donating a pair of shoes. I learned about like how great the name was and how fame got to his brand name through Japan, and the great things he had accomplished, including having Daniel Day-Lewis apprenticing with him for a year. It's crazy, right? And although Scuola del Cuoio was a much bigger venue and we had many artisans as work, this little shoemaker in Florence had achieved fame to a level that it was flattering.
But the moment you have the Japanese, traveling to apprentice with you is really the moment of arrival.
Pretty much. I knew nothing about shoemaking at the time, so it was a new world for me, and it was fascinating. Too bad it was very expensive, and the process was lengthy, and I didn't really need bespoke, right? I'm a standard 40.5 size. I've always been buying brands off the rack. What was missing for me was the experience. At the time, Florence is a small city. We only had 2 stores carrying higher end, and by higher end I mean Edward Green. With all that was the highest we could get, and maybe 2-3 models in brown or black, and that was it. That was the availability for someone that could be a client, but that was it. And when I saw what Stefano Bemer was doing at the time in using exotics, a shark and an elephant and even leather, like calfskin combinations, it was beautiful. Just not available to me as a consumer of ready-to-wear. So later on in 2012, when we somehow got serious about like doing a strategy, putting in place a strategy for the brand, my idea was I want that experience made available to people like me that don't need to spend or invest in the overheads of creating your own last, your own pattern, all the preparation that gets into the making of a bespoke pair, but would enjoy the quality of a bespoke pair and would enjoy all the customization that we can offer them that are already in-house. So it's not that we need to get organized for it. What we needed was the capacity of production on a ready-to-wear in-house, so we can control the made-to-order. Exactly what we were doing at Scuola del Cuoio. It was just turning into what was needed in shoemaking.
Yeah.
And that went really, really well. Meaning, by the time that we started showing that we could deliver the same exact quality, if it fits you, it is exactly the same quality of one of our famous bespoke shoes at a third of a price. That was a hit. And we started like doubling sales and doubling production every year through the training. So we trained new artisans to make our shoes, we had more capacity production, higher demand. We started traveling, get more orders, new training, new craftsmen, and so, and that's the story. The comment I get the most nowadays from a new client is that the experience that we provide is indeed unique. And that's because, again, normally this was an experience reserved to those spending $5,000 on a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Nowadays, not the case. We started, $1,500 on a made-to-order. But you get exactly the same range of models, leathers, customizations. Everything is exactly the same. So it's a refreshing way to work in a very traditional market, which is shoes. You don't invent anything in shoes.
Oh, wow, thank you. Coffee. There's never enough coffee in Italy, right?
Oh, no. This is what, our fifth today?
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Jack.
Well, the Italians are very particular about their espresso, so.
Absolutely.
Cheers. Yeah, thank you.
So what I was saying is, yes, we did bring a different quality in a segment that ready-to-wear shoes of higher quality, as you well know, of course, wear Goodyear weld, which is, a machine-made thing. We brought the hand-welted component into the ready-to-wear, the hand-lasted component of the making it ready-to-wear. And now our Tradizione line is entirely hand-sewn with fiddle back and metal toe taps. You saw one pair of our Tradizione earlier on last year.
Well, it's an interesting point because, if you're someone, I feel like there's two different bespoke clients. There's the customer that needs bespoke because he can't find anything that fits ready to wear.
And that is the
particularly
client.
wide feet or a very high arch or just something, very peculiar and very unique to his foot that makes it so that nothing fit. Okay, so you have to go to bespoke, and bespoke can take care of you. But then there's that other client that is that's a connoisseur of quality, of craftsmanship and tradition, that has an appreciation for the sculpture and the beauty and the nuance of shoemaking that, prior to an offer like this, would only be able to find a hand-welted pair of shoes bespoke. Even if the ready-to-wear last fit him perfectly, he'd still be pushed into that high price point in order to access the customization and those nuanced elements of shoemaking to me that really make a beautiful shoe really something that is a work of art.
And that is exactly the point. Bespoke has been synonymous with quality for a very long time for exactly the reason you described, because some of the materials, the craftsmanship, the make were only available to bespoke line, while the ready-to-wear line was always a lesser in the search of profit margin and efficiency in production, right? So there were two different animals, maybe carrying the same name, but not nearly resembling each other. My idea at the time was like, why is there such a split between the two? So one of the first things I ask a client when they walk in and they ask for bespoke, I ask, why do you want bespoke? Is it because you need bespoke? In which case there's nothing else that I would offer you, or is because you want the highest quality possible? In which case we investigate whether one of our 9 different lasts that we use nowadays would fit you enough, or if it doesn't, if we can tweak it, and then you have options, including the bespoke make.
Do you do small fit modifications to the last within?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so a high instep, you can take care of, right?
We currently offer 3 levels of customization. One is the made-to-measure, which is small tweaks. One is what we call the blue bespoke, which is actually a made-to-measure but with your own last and your own pattern. And one is a full bespoke, which includes the making of the mold from scratch and making of the pattern. Each time is a whole different...
Yeah, but you also have this offer that is effectively a ready-to-wear last, but fully handmade.
It is. So any of the 3 can be done fully handmade with a fiddle back and everything. So again, it's you pick and choose what you want in your experience according to your price point and your needs and your preference.
Yeah, what's interesting is I really kind of see the same theme that we saw earlier today at Scuola di Cuoio, right, which is the leather school, right, where the school itself helps support, the business, which is the making of those leather goods, but how it's a real kind of symbiotic relationship that one doesn't exist without the other. And in order to really offer that to a large group of people to enjoy it, like at Escuela, I mean, we saw just an incredible amount of people going through today. But with shoemaking, I mean, one of the big problems with bespoke shoemaking is that it takes a long time, and there's not that many makers out there. And so in addition to just how many fittings you need, some shoemakers could have a 3-year backlog, right? So that even if you were available, you lived in London, had the money, it still would be 3 years before you get a pair of shoes.
The situation that I found when I stepped in the business was indeed like year and a half wait list, fittings to be performed around the planet. For some clients that in the end, I was looking at their production sheets and it's like, they weren't that off from being a size. I was like, good clients to have, and some of them I was never able to convert them to made to measure or to made to order because they just like the product we deliver. Yeah. Fine, whatever, preference, right? But going back to what you said, like the symbiosis between the training of new artisans, the supply that we can provide to the demand that there is out in the market, and how many more trainings we can make, that is like it's a circle that we can't break.
Yeah.
Knowing how to make our shoes and our shoes only is a prerequisite for working with us. So you have to go through the training in order to be considered for a position with us. Based on that, I know what is the capacity of production I can allocate. I know how much wait time you have to go through to get one of our shoes. Managing expectations
is a lot easier.
Is key, because if I tell you 12 weeks and I deliver in 11, you're happy. If I deliver in 13, you're less than happy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that needed to be done at Stefano Bemer when I first got involved. It took us like a year and a half to tune it up, but now it started, and it's working in the way that we have engineered it.
Yeah. Well, this is a great example right here. I was admiring these shoes. I mean, this is a great example of a product that traditionally would only be accessible bespoke. I mean, I can't even name this material. What material is this? This is
seal.
Seal.
Yeah,
really? Okay.
It doesn't sound good, but yeah.
And then you have the Norwegian, double welt, right?
Yep.
With the double outsole.
Yep.
Beautiful bottom finishing.
Yep.
I mean, traditionally something like this as a derby would only be found bespoke, especially in a navy leather like this. But
absolutely.
This is an incredible shoe that I'd love to have, just not spend, maybe 6,000 pounds on it.
I agree. That was exactly my point when we started. And nowadays, forget the fact that it's sealed, but with the assortment of exotic and non-exotic leathers we have, they are equally available to consumers on made-to-order, made-to-measure, or bespoke, with the only exception of the Russian cuff from the Metta Caterina, which we still have, and it's only available to existing active clients of bespoke, because I don't want to sell it.
Yeah.
We have a few cuts left, and once it's done, it's done. Every time we sell a pair, I'm raising the price by 15%. Yeah. I don't want to sell it.
Well, that's an incredible story. I'm actually surprised. I guess I hadn't known that you had access to the leather, because it's very tightly controlled.
We bought some hides back in the day. I bought some more when I got involved like 2 years later, when I learned the story. So it's a beautiful thing. Where else you can find a 200-year-old leather?
Older than America.
That was the reason why we worked then with Horwin to create the replica, which is a leather that reproduces the texture and the coloring. So that was the idea. But the original one, it's a story you tell, right?
It's a romantic story.
It's all about the story. I mean, the leather itself is nice, but I had a conversation with a very, very good client of ours in New York City. He's a lawyer and has bought over 50 pairs from us. Impeccable style, beautiful last, by the way. When I need to shoot for a commercial, we use his last because the shoes are beautiful. I mean, incredible. Anyways, one day he comes to me in New York and he says he wants a pair of the Russian cuff shoes. And I say, Mr. Michael, I mean, you bought everything you could possibly buy from us. I don't know if the quality/value ratio is in your favor. We're charging a lot of money for these shoes. And honestly, I don't know if they're better than all the shoes you have. And he goes, let me tell you one thing. It's like, one day you will run out of this. I love your shoes, and I don't use any other shoemaker. After buying 50 pairs of shoes, you think this will make a difference in my spending with you? It's like, no, you're right.
Well, that's a good point.
So we made him a pair.
Yeah, well, it's really owning a piece of history. I mean, I've got a pair that was made bespoke, not from you, unfortunately, but to be able to say that I'm wearing a pair of shoes that, the reindeer from which it was made, was probably running around Russia about the time of the American Revolution is pretty amazing. It's a little bit younger, but by like 5 or 10 years.
Yes. Yeah, I have my own pair made, and I used on the heel, I used the cut where the stamp with the ear is. So it's kind of
really?
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but mine don't have that feature.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, how have you then, I know that Vespucci, is another brand that, you've recently really taken over. A traditional, very historic Florentine brand. Very much a part of this city's history of bespoke craftsmanship. Similar story to Stefano Bemer, right? Where, unfortunately, the person leading that company passed away, had this incredible company, right? And then, you carrying on what your family does so well, continue to pull that legacy forward.
Mr. Vespucci, Loris, is an incredible tailor, trained since he was 10 from the master tailors here in Florence to the Florentine tailoring, which has a different aesthetic and also different construction. My good friend Tommaso Melani introduced me to Loris many years ago. I still remember the first time I went in, and I was rather proud of the jacket I was wearing. It was a Neapolitan one, and I loved it. And Loris looked at me and he said, like, what the heck are you wearing? So Loris had...
And undressing, the way only a tailor can.
When I saw that what we did at Stefano Bemer had worked, and meeting the expectation of an audience, at potential demand on the market that could not find satisfaction, then I thought that, well, there's room for the same experience in tailoring.
Yeah.
I went to Loris and we discussed the possibility of doing this together, creating a legacy out of his name, and creating ready-to-wear patterns that would reflect his aesthetic and everything. And he said no, of course. Took me and Tommaso Melani quite some time to convince him, but then we did. So he worked with us for 3 long years in creating the pattern of a Vespucci jacket, not just on bespoke. He had never made a pattern in his life. Every time he would start, absolutely.
Really? Wow.
If you would ask him to create a jacket using the pattern, the jacket would be very different from the one before. He would make the jacket for you in front of the mirror. That was the old way of doing tailoring for him. And so we worked in the direction of getting to an aesthetic and a pattern and a fit that would reflect his ideas.
Okay.
Then when we did, we had the same thing that I needed for shoes. I had a mold, I had the materials, I had the craftsmanship. We trained more tailors to do what he wanted to be done on tailoring. For some reason, it just took more time than shoemaking. Don't ask me why. It probably takes more time to train a tailor than a shoemaker.
Okay.
Especially on the bespoke. On the ready-made, once they get it, they get it.
Is it similar with the Vespucci in that it's made-to-measure pattern, but still completely made by hand in the same way that a bespoke garment would be made?
Exactly. So the idea is we have a make that we know reflects Mr. Vespucci's quality paradigm. Now we have a pattern that can be ready to wear, can be altered to create a made-to-measure. We have a blue bespoke, which is a made-to-measure with the basset fitting, and then we have the full bespoke. We start from in front of a mirror, chalk, and we have the entire range of experiences. What matters is the outcome for the client, the experience for the client, and the range of customization that we offer.
Well, there's a certain lifestyle to Italian tailoring that's always been quite unique. And then, you bring that down to the different tailoring regions, which tailoring and really style in Italy has always been regional.
Yep.
I mean, the Neapolitan, Roman, right, Milanese, Florentine, I mean, all very distinct. You take it down, to the regional, variety that is Stefano Bemer, and it's a lifestyle, right? It's a kind of it's an approach.
It reflects a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we've seen yesterday, you've seen how Tommaso Capozzi embodies it in a way that I don't.
Yeah.
But we still dress with the same things. It's just, I like to think that bespoke brings, or custom, let's call it custom, because bespoke, again, it's just a way to engineer the product.
That's right. Yeah.
It's not a quality.
Yeah, it's a delivery
preference.
mechanism.
So custom is a way of expressing how you see yourself, how the persona that you build for yourself should be perceived by others, right? And that is where I think our offering made a difference in creating, giving tools to elaborate this persona that each of us can make according to what we see outside and how we feel about ourselves.
Well, there's also a degree of thoughtfulness and deliberateness, right? Where you have to be deliberate and thoughtful about what it is and how it is that you want to dress. And you achieve that through custom or bespoke.
You do.
Right?
And learning.
And learning,
Oh my
absolutely.
God.
Well, and, there's a degree of evolution where, we're all on a journey, right? And so where we end up is never where it is we begin. But you have to be in that conversation with someone, and I find that it's the bespoke or the custom process that allows one to exist most richly in that conversation to really kind of refine those nuance characteristics of practice.
Absolutely. I mean, by the time you know the rules, you can bend them to create something that reflects your vision of the world.
Yeah.
But you have to know the rules.
You have to know the rules.
And that is why I always say I'd rather work with someone that is a good and knowledgeable client for both shoemaking and tailoring because he knows what I'm bringing to the table, rather than someone that never had such an experience. So he comes to us as a novice.
Yeah.
And then, because of course of the price point, his expectation for what we're going to deliver are, this is it, right? Better be the best thing ever. And there's no a best thing ever. There's a good interpretation of what I hear that you want to be or look like. I'd rather be working with a very refined gentleman that it somehow gives me the input of how he sees himself.
Yeah. Well, one of the characteristics that you spoke about is accessibility. And so for someone that is looking to access Stefano Bemer, right, that might not be able to come to Florence, like I've had the privilege, where does one, find you and have an opportunity to really encounter this incredible work?
So the good old way for us has been trunk shows, which we are finally
back to doing.
We'll be in Asia, probably Hong Kong, Singapore, Bangkok, and then India, Saudi, and Dubai at the end of the summer. We have a store in New York, which just opened. But the plan again is to expand the presence of the brand to other locations. We're considering Tokyo or the Middle East as another opening in 2025. And then we'll decide what's next for us.
Yeah. But presumably the ready-to-wear stuff could be found on the website. And that's the virtue of the offer, is that if you know your size and you're happy with the fit.
Oh, even if you don't.
Yeah.
And now we have the fitting shoes in every last we can send to the clients, and we jump on Zoom calls to consult on the fit so we can do the tweaks that are needed. We got very good at it. And
it's one of the silver linings of the past few years
modern
has
times,
pushed those
technology and logistics
into everyone's living room, so to say. And even into the hallowed halls of bespoke tailoring and shoemaking.
Exactly. That's the trajectory of the brand. Although keeping in clear sight the threshold that we need to maintain in terms of number of pieces made every year to maintain quality, the relationship with the client, deadlines. It's an organic growth through the training of our artisans and tailors. Everything needs to happen smoothly. We're not forcing, we're not, that's why we don't do wholesale. So wholesale for us, it's I don't want to say it's an enemy, but it's almost an enemy. It forces us in peaks of production. We don't know how the product is pitched, so we don't know what kind of education is made with the client on how it should fit and what are the options. And
as I so often say on the channel, it's something I feel that we certainly believe in together, is that the experience in some ways is more important than the final product. I mean, that to me is, one of the most beautiful parts of the bespoke process is the experience of being able to work with someone like yourself, to go through that customization and to end up with the product that in so many ways is a unique manifestation of your style, your tastes, and just your personality.
Yeah, I like to say that the product is the trigger of the experience. Because every time you wear it, if you had a positive experience, you will be reminded of how smooth and nice, and even if we made a mistake, if we stood up for it and if we fixed it in the right way, you will remember in a positive way.
Well, it's part of the humanity of the experience too, which is that it's not pristine. There's a humanity to it.
It's man-made and very man-made.
Yeah, but therein lies its beauty. Well, Tommaso, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
And I've enjoyed hearing about that story, and of course, I've got such a profound appreciation for the product, and look forward to being able to truly experience that here soon.
Oh, your experience is about to be completed soon, and then you'll tell me if it was, in your experience, in your trip, if you liked the food or the experience better. The food was pretty hard to beat.
Well, the food is hard to beat, and the wine has been exceptional as well. I don't think that this will be my last time in Florence.
I doubt.
Thank you.
All right.